Welcome to the Mucked Up My Self-Care podcast.
I'm Jill from New York.
And I'm Linda from Tasmania.
We are two moms from opposite sides of the world who are living, demonstrating, and helping moms across the world build their self-care asset bank.
Ready to dive in? Messy, interrupted, imperfect, and most of all mucked up. Let's get going.
Hello.
Hello. We're here.
We made it another day.
We did. We just tried to hit record and then we had to go, oh, hang on. I've just got to go and tell two children to be quiet and go to sleep. Go to sleep.
And it's getting close to wake up time here. So I'm like, whoo, it's going to be like a Russian roulette. What time is he waking up?
Okay. All right. So we have highs and lows.
Yes.
It's both sides of the coin. Do you want to start?
Sure. Okay, let's see. My excuse me. My low, we're going to start with, I think, is recording my podcast with my husband. It's just
You're so brave.
It's every time we go to record, I mess it up somehow. We've now recorded twice on mute, and
Oh my God.
and he won't start over because what we already said was gold, and we lost it all. So it's just not going to happen. So we have yet to had a really good discussion for an episode, and it's just a very large challenge that has got me just not happy. So it's my low trying to figure this out. Like, we're trying to find a good spot in the calendar for us to do it weekly. We're trying to find probably a better person who can deal with the tech setup for us. I can't figure out how to get my mic working right. So we'll hopefully get it all figured out and get another episode out. And I'm not gonna put too much pressure on us, and maybe I need to stick with, not a weekly podcast, but a bi-weekly podcast. Will give us a lot less pressure. So
yep.
Working on that one still. So my high, I think, is, oh my goodness. I love when my high is having Declan growing up and like seeing some of the things that he's growing in character. And I think that's like the biggest thing right now is how school has changed him in being such a good boy. And I hate to say that he's a good boy, but like his character is really starting to develop. And I do attribute it to being at school and getting direction from other people that he will listen to, and it being enforced in a repetitious way, and also with karate being a good influence on him, that I see such growth in him. It's absolutely beautiful. It's just it's such a thing that I never expected to feel towards another human. So it's really cool to have these feelings as a mother.
Yeah. They don't end. They don't end at all.
That's good to know, Linda.
Yeah.
So that's for me this week. What about for you? Your highs and lows?
For me, I think let's start with the low as well. I had a really bad gastro bug, which I thought I might have avoided, which went through our house probably for a week and a half in between all of us. And
I think last episode the kids had it. You had been okay.
Oh my gosh. And it just it hit really suddenly, and it was disgusting. I have not had gastro that bad. I'm not going to go into the details because but everybody will stop listening right now. It was just 2 days of basically needing to be in bed. Weak, no energy, not able to eat anything, hardly able to drink water. It was just Ugh. Yep. So that has been remedied with sunshine, which is my high. We went to the beach yesterday for 3 hours and I got a walk on my own for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or something, just me and the dog going along the beach in the water, like paddling in the water. And it was just beautiful sunshine. Like, it wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold, it was just sort of the right temperature. And the kids built sandcastles and jumped waves and surfed waves, sort of tried to. They thought they were pro surfers, but they really weren't. So it was just such a great end to the gastro, getting all the gastro out of the house. And on the weekend, we also got out in the garden. I mowed the lawn. I have a new favourite thing. It's freshly mowed grass that I've mowed myself. Like, it's really empowering, by the way. And so that was pretty awesome too, just to have a weekend of catching up on a lot of house stuff while having energy to do that at the same time. So, yeah, very, very cool. So, on that high, that's a good segue as well into what we're talking about today, which is, are we too emotional for self-care?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think my first question is like, what's too emotional?
Yeah. I'm on the spectrum. I'm on the spectrum. I'm definitely.
So it depends on who we ask. Like, just women in general are too emotional, right? And then, like, is it when we're on our cycles that we're too emotional? What is it? Like, what's
well, there's two things right there, which is society sees us as too emotional, and that's a big, comes from a lot of the patriarchal sort of systems that we've had in place and everything like that. And another stereotypical sort of label that we have placed on ourselves, being too emotional when we're hormonal or have our periods or all of those other things, which every single woman, mother goes through at all stages of their life. So it's, I mean, right there's part of the problem. And these conversations need to bring people in to start to understand, well, hang on, why does society still think that we are too emotional?
Yeah.
And especially too emotional for self-care. So, yeah. So in thinking about that, I have a curveball question, which wasn't in our questions. Do we need to be regulated to have effective self-care?
Ooh. So is then not self-care a tool to help us regulate our emotions, though?
But if you're really angry or even really, really excited and can't calm down enough to
go
do self-care.
Something. Yeah. But also, like, when we're that, like, however heightened, self-care can also be that thing to bring us down a notch too. So it's like, which comes first? Which do we try to do? Is it that we know ourselves? Like, I know if I'm way too tired, I just need to take a nap. Forget trying to do anything else. Like, that's just going to be the self-care that I do. And I'm not going to go, like, I'm not one to go take any aids to go get some sleep. So I just need to sit there and let the sleep come over me. But will I journal first to try and get those emotions to come down so I can sleep? Because sometimes your thoughts are just so out there. So do you have to decompress your thoughts first by having some kind of a venting session, whether it be with paper or a significant other or a podcast episode, and then I can go get some sleep? Or are you able to just go ahead and do it? But yeah, that's a great question.
Because there's still a lot of talk, which I feel like is going in a bit of a loop around self-regulation, especially as mothers of boys, and the importance of teaching self-regulation and being regulated with our emotions when our children are too emotional and our children are melting down and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I came across something the other day, and I'm going to just abbreviate or just loosely explain what it was talking about, which is basically saying sometimes calming down isn't actually the best way to regulate yourself. Sometimes we actually need to go and do something, go and actually be physically out there and probably seen by some as too emotional in order to regulate. Sometimes we actually need to match whatever is happening rather than just calming down, which is often the narrative that's around regulation is calm down, just calm down. But actually that's often, or at least part of the time, some of the worst advice.
And makes you actually more calm ever.
So our nervous systems are just like completely.
That's evident when we tell our children to calm down when they're in a tantrum. That doesn't work. Like, we can't just all of a sudden immediately calm down because you said to. And if our kids aren't able to do that because we're not teaching them how to self-regulate, obviously we know we can't do it, because are we really doing that? Are we even taking our own advice to our children on how to, get out of a tantrum? Okay, so let's think about something else, or let's reason this, And I'm finding myself more doing the intrusive thought stuff, where I'm like, you know what, Declan, that was an intrusive thought. We're not going to act on that again. Next time, let's talk our thoughts out and see if we should be doing something like this. So I'm like trying to bring awareness to the intrusive thought thing, and like saying it out loud, like, oh, wait, I see what you're about to do. Let's think about this. So how can we apply that to our emotions? And, you can start to tell for our own self, well, we know we're out of bandwidth, or we're in a melty place because we just accomplished something large. So
I feel like I've been saying to my kids since they got up this morning, I've got a really empty tank today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to waste whatever's in my tank on repeating myself 10 times because my tank is precious, and I need to use my tank to work. I need to use it to get to pre-kinder today. I needed to do all of these other things, and I said, I need you to do the basic, put your socks on. I cannot stand here right now and watch you put your socks on. That's not the best use of my energy today.
Yeah. So when we voice that, though, like, we're being aware of what we need, are we then going to be able to bring ourselves to a point where we don't get too emotional, so that way we can do the self-care that's going to help us out of that funk that we would be in if we got too emotional, where we wouldn't need to skip on it because we were too far gone and not able to even wrap our minds around it. So, I mean, that's definitely some good self-regulation practices, being aware of, what's going on with our energy, and do we have the energy that we need to have a decent day, to get the stuff we need done, to not throw a tantrum.
I did manage to almost pretty much get through the day without too much argy-bargy. There was a moment when everybody was talking to me and people were still trying to steal my dinner off my plate.
Oh my gosh.
Time. But I was like, and then I just stepped away from the table and I walked back and we started again. Walked away from the table with my dinner in my hand, by the way. So, yeah,
Oh my
sometimes. So when we're talking about, too emotional, I guess the regulation piece does come into it, but also the emotions of those around us is a huge impact
Yeah.
on not only our bandwidth, but our emotions, whether we like it or not. We're not cardboard cutout perfect human beings who can just everything water off a duck's back and not respond because, well, we're mothers and we're not cold-hearted, and we're also just we read the room and we know what's happening, and we've got our own experiences, our own triggers, our own history, our own stuff. So when it comes to self-care, and if the self-care keeps getting pushed back because all of the emotions are needing to be handled through the day, do you have a story to tell about that?
Oh gosh, do I? I have to be transparent with it, but I probably don't even get to it that day and have it like build up so much that it needs to be done where it needs to almost be forced upon me. Like others can see it saying, you know what, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you need to go take a nap today to get back to where you need to be and rest. Because obviously you're at a point where your bandwidth is so low or whatever it may be. So I think that's probably what happens most easily for me is just avoidance of self-care when I'm brought to a point of it's just not happening today instead of trying to find a spot because of like what we've even been talking about. Like, is it just too much? Then I need to first self-regulate first before doing something.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if I have anything specific that I can.
I suppose as mothers, we are so often, advocating as well. And so I like one example that we talked about just before we jumped on to record is the beach.
But you know.
The beach yesterday. My 10-year-old did not want to go at the last millisecond of literally just about to turn on the car, and he stormed upstairs, had a huge tantrum, just melted down and said, I am not going because there's a tiny split in his boogie board. Like that was enough to completely make him probably in some ways too emotional for him to be able to handle. And so knowing what is best for him, there was an element of, you're going to come to the beach. I know you think that you don't want to go right now. I know you think that it's too big, too much to think about, the boogie board was all that he could think about. That was it. Completely all he could think about. But we don't really have someone who's like, this is actually the best thing for you right now. You need to go to the beach. You will go to the beach. I will make you. we have to advocate for ourselves, or at least have friends and family who will do a bit of that. But they are not in our heads 24/7 with our emotions. Our emotions are solely our own, really, and our own responsibility.
Yep, they are. But how do we guide them as parents? And I think you knew best that he needed to go out to the beach because it's exactly what we would need too in that same situation. Just getting outside, the sunshine. Yep.
Yeah.
And they're not going to think that right away because they need to watch us do those kinds of things. And I will say, like, one thing that keeps coming up is bedtime for us and the power struggle of mom versus dad in controlling the routine, and both of us trying to be in there saying one thing, somebody else says another thing, and contradicting, or whatever the struggle might be at the night time. And then I usually find myself, you know what, my thing is to lay down in bed and get him to fall asleep. So husband's job is to get his teeth brushed into pajamas. We're going to split up bedtime routine that way. And I have to excuse myself, and I walk away and I go outside like, okay, I'm done dealing with this mess right now. Daddy's in the leader right now. So you follow his rules and listen to him. I'll be outside taking a breather, and I'll meet you in your bed when you're all ready. And that seems to be going well. He calms down. My husband calms down. We get done. We all go to sleep. So just recognizing that we both can't be the ones giving directions at the same time if we're not on the same page is one step in getting emotions to not be too high. And then me just
too much.
Getting fresh air at the end of the night. So sometimes, that moonlight air is what's going to need to be happening here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
it's a lot.
What is too emotional? And I think that's just everyday life becomes sometimes with toddlers that we get to be too emotional, and it's just part of life. So I think continuing to recognize our energy and where we're at each day. Declan, and where we can fit in some self-care is all we can start with.
Exactly. And while you have many mummies on your lap right now, before someone gets too emotional, we'll wrap it up there for another episode. We will be back again next week. These episodes are weekly. If this is your first time joining us, we'd love you to reach out and connect to Jill or myself. All of the details are in the show notes. And let's start a conversation around what this means and what this looks like and start to unpack it a little bit. So until next week,
we hope you can unstuck your muck.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Are you done?
Bam, bam, can we do it again?